think if you asked Canadians, do you support the border closure? Most people would say yes. I think if you ask Canadians, do you support separating family members and children from their parents? And most Canadians would say no.
A Canadian doctor separated from her American husband, also a doctor. The border keeping them apart as they expect their first child.
Where can we locate something that can serve not only the immediate community, but the surrounding communities that don't want to travel 30, 40, 50 kilometers to a larger town?
Pot shop entrepreneurs are looking to set up shop in Windsor, Essex. They've got their eyes set on our region's smaller communities. I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for joining us. The COVID-19 pandemic has taken a bite out of profits for thousands of restaurants across the country as they moved away from traditional dine-in experiences in favor of takeout and curbside delivery. But here in Windsor, Council has approved a new proposal to give people more options for enjoying a meal at their favorite restaurant. With more, we go live to the CBC's Sanjay Maru. Sanjay, what exactly has Council passed today?
Well, Chris, it's essentially a pilot project that's expected to take place right here in Lansbury Park. That's where I'm standing right now. Now, imagine this. This rink would essentially turn into a mall food court, except the only difference being, of course, it would be outside. Now, this idea, proposed by Windsor Eats and given the thumbs up from the city, if it comes to fruition, would see about 5 or 6 restaurants set up shop along the perimeter of this rink, with seating being set up in the center, of course, adhering to physical distancing measures. Now, also part of this proposal from Windsor Eats is that restaurants would participate in rotation. So one week you could see 5 or 6 restaurants, and then the next week 5 or 6 different restaurants, giving a lot of restaurants in Windsor, Essex the chance to participate. It's an idea that definitely piques the interest of many business owners and restaurant owners here in our region, but there are a lot of questions about this that have gone unanswered.
There definitely needs to be an approach on how things are done. Right now, we were just kind of giving the information, this is what they're doing. But we have just restaurants throughout the city, we have to see how are we cooking? How are we serving the customers? Are we preparing our food at the actual scene? Is food being brought out from our restaurants to the scene and being served there? What is the time span? These are all different measurements that we have to look at.
It's important for us to be serving our customers again. A lot of, we've been getting messages all day, almost every day from our customers that they miss coming into the restaurant and miss having that experience. Being able to offer delivery and takeout obviously is a good thing, but it's not as, it doesn't compare to the fresh experience we offer.
Now, for restaurants to occupy space here in Lansbury Park, the city is actually waiving all rental fees, and that waiver also applies to restaurants wanting to open up sidewalk cafes and patios. Normally, to do that, you would have to pay a fee, but the city has elected to waive that in an effort to support this sector.
This is certainly one of those days where you'd prefer to be sitting outside than inside, all things considered. Sanjay, how soon can we expect this to turn into that outdoor food court where you're standing now?
That's right, Chris. Well, according to Windsor Eats, that's still unclear. That's because the Ford government has yet to provide direction on when restaurants can resume dine-in service. But according to Windsor's mayor, even when that is given the green light, there's still a lot of challenges that need to be considered.
Timing is one issue, how many folks you could have in a given space, what kind of restaurants they would have there in terms of the needs, whether it's hydro, whether it's water. Some may require gas and different kinds of setups where there's some safety requirements for the public. And so there are a number of details that would have to be worked out.
And Dilkins goes on to say there that when the provincial government does give the go-ahead for restaurants to resume dine-in service, he expects there to be some hesitancy from restaurant owners to participate in turning Lansbury Park into the small food court, mainly because he expects a lot of restaurant owners are going to want to set up outdoor patios, bring traffic over there rather than come here. But ultimately, it will come down to what Windsor Eats works out with city administration to turn this park into a desirable location for restaurants to set up shop. Chris.
Thanks for this, Sanjay. Major announcement about this year's Ford Fireworks Festival. They'll go ahead on August 31st, but as a televised only event.
The theme is we are one together. And that night, August 31st, Detroit will see a show that they have never seen before, and I promise it will be the best fireworks show that this country has ever seen.
Now, officials say that this year's fireworks, it's going to honor frontline workers amid COVID-19. Public spaces in Detroit will not be open for the viewing itself. Still not clear how the city of Windsor is going to manage things on our side of the river. Pregnant doctor in Windsor is worried that her American husband could miss the birth of their first child. Ashley and Tom Cook experienced a lot of heartbreak trying to conceive, and with the border closed for another month, the Cooks aren't sure calls for compassion at the border from the highest levels are making it to the front lines. Ashley Cook is feeling physically healthy at 26 weeks pregnant, but there's a lot happening around her.
I feel like emotionally it's been quite trying and stressful, especially with the current border closures.
Her American husband, Tom, lives in northern Michigan in a county with 21 confirmed COVID-19 cases. Ashley is Canadian, living in Windsor. Both are doctors, work where they live, and neither can cross the international border. For now, phone calls and video chats, a pandemic pregnancy spent apart.
So he's literally just been like watching this pregnancy grow over the phone. I'm like, oh, you can feel her move now. And it's like, he can't feel that, you know? And it's sad because I feel like this could be our only pregnancy. Like, we don't want it to be our only pregnancy, but it realistically could, because it took us almost 4 years to get pregnant and 3 cycles of IVF to do so. So like, this might be it.
No one can cross the border unless it's essential. Last week, the Deputy Prime Minister asked border agents to be compassionate.
I will say, as a government, we do encourage them to very much take into account the specific situations of specific families, of specific Canadians.
The Cooks have tried. Ashley's closest family is 4 hours away in Waterloo. Stress weighing heavy for both. A doctor wrote a note for Tom saying a crossing would be best for Ashley and their child.
And so he took that letter from the doctor to the border this past weekend, and they have denied him entry, and then furthermore stated that if he attempts to cross again, he could be banned from Canada for a year.
Windsor-Tecumseh MP Eric Kuzmierczyk's office spoke with Ashley today, saying they've escalated this to the federal minister in charge of the international border. Meanwhile, Ashley deals with patience as a family doctor, holds on to the moment she last spent with her husband, an ultrasound in Michigan.
Kind of like the last, interaction was like, oh, we found out we're having a girl. So it was nice. Sorry. I feel like it's just very emotional, but, it was nice to have that. And so it was kind of like, oh, this is like really good news in like sort of this period of like confusion and frustration and sadness.
Laughing through tears, Ashley knows there's others in similar situations. She hopes sharing her story adds new perspective to the border closures.
I think if you asked Canadians, do you support the border closure? Most people would say yes. I think if you ask Canadians, do you support separating family members and children from their parents? And most Canadians would say no.
In other news, there's a lot of interest in people wanting to open up a cannabis shop here in Windsor. 16 applications before the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, to be exact, just for our city here in Windsor. But now we're also starting to see proposals to make marijuana more accessible in smaller communities. CBC's Jason Vio joins us live with more. Jason, where could we start to see these retail shops open up?
One company is looking at Lakeshore, and that's the company behind me here. This is their location, second proposed location on Division Road that has yet to be opened, and they're also looking at Lakeshore again. Another company, they're looking at 3 smaller communities, Amherstburg, Blenheim, and Chatham, and that's the Higher Limits Cannabis Company. And it's important to note that they are not affiliated with the Higher Limits Cannabis Lounge that closed last year in downtown Windsor. So that company is strategically basically staying away from bigger cities. They want to focus on smaller towns, that, especially those that don't have cannabis stores currently or that don't have any in the works. Philip Bradbury is one of the owners. He says he left a comfortable tech job to kind of put everything on the line to open up these 3 cannabis stores under his company, and he wants to do more. He's put all of his money into this, all of his savings. He says it's a growing industry and he wanted to get in at the ground level. And he says after doing some surveys and some studies of his own, he found out that there are some opportunities in smaller towns.
That's what we've looked at with all our areas. Where can we locate something that can serve not only the immediate community, but the surrounding communities that don't want to travel 30, 40, 50 kilometers to a larger town. When we were looking at locating downtown Windsor, we were looking at a space that was 7,000 square feet, and you pay a premium to be in the downtown of a larger city. When we locate in a place like Glenham, we're looking at a very small store, under 1,000 square feet, at a very reasonable rent. The cost of operating the store will be much lower.
Bradbury hopes to open that Amherstburg location in mid-July. The Blenheim one he hopes to open as early as next month, and the one in Chatham could take a little bit longer. Right now he's currently in the midst of the public notice phase, so that's where the public can provide their comment in support or not of that specific company and that location, and then after that the AGCO still has to review those comments and then provide their final stamp of approval before those shops can open. Chris?
Now, what's going on with the possible store in Lakeshore?
Well, that's a Hamilton-based company. As I mentioned, they're connected to the one here behind me on Division Road in Windsor. And the company says the response from the Windsor-Essex community has been fairly positive compared to other communities where they've opened.
The public placard process, we only received maybe one submission, one complaint, shall we call it, or one concern from the community. In other locations, for example, the store we did in Toronto, we received over 680 complaints. So I think Windsor's been really nice to cannabis and certainly very friendly to cannabis. Well, I think Windsor is a wonderful market. First of all, obviously it's a border town. The casino's there, there's a university there. I think it's a great population. There's lots of great real estate that's available there too. And from our research, we believe there's a lot of cannabis consumers in Windsor as well.
And his store in Lakeshore and here on Division Road in Windsor could open in the next couple of months. He doesn't have an exact date as to when that might be. Again, the AGCO has to provide their final stamp of approval, and we'll have to wait and see, Chris, in terms of the 16 applications before the AGCO for the City of Windsor as to if they'll be given the green light and when that might be.
Thanks for this, Jason. Another day with no deaths because of COVID-19 in our area. The health unit says there were 11 new cases confirmed and outbreaks at 3 seniors' home. They've been rescinded. Chartwell Kingsville, Lifetime on Riverside in Windsor, and Country Village Homes near Woodsley. Now, you'll remember that Country Village was one of the worst hit spots in our area at the start of this pandemic, with 70 residents and 29 staff members who tested positive. The health unit says moving forward, the focus for these homes needs to be prevention.
We know many of these residents do not go outside, and with further restriction on visitors, the key piece would be staffing, and then the staff, how they are conducting themselves and how they are spending time outdoors. And when they're coming to the facility, are they following all the right IPAC measures? Are they wearing the universal mask, which is a requirement in all of these facilities? Are they using the appropriate PPE when they're caring for people? Are they washing their hands after caring for one patient and going after to another patient? So all these measures will be critical to ensure that these are not reintroduced.
Now, you heard Dr. Ahmed talk about masks. Federal officials today launched a new push for people to wear masks as well when physical distancing can't be guaranteed.
It is an added layer of protection. It is for you to protect others. So if 2 people are wearing masks, I'm protecting you and you're protecting me. And if you can't predict whether you can maintain that 2-meter distance, then it's recommended that you wear the non-medical mask or facial covering.
Now, health officials say they'd previously suggested mask use, but now they're fully recommending everyone wear a face covering while in public places with other people, like in stores or on public transit. The Prime Minister says that's what he'll be doing, and he had a mask on when arriving on Parliament Hill today, and we're heading into question period. Now, the recommendation around masks was a key part of today's announcement from the province as well, particularly when it comes to wearing them while using public transit.
In addition to the face coverings, health officials are recommending all transit agencies put the following measures in place. Allow for physical distancing by admitting fewer passengers and using physical markers between seats. Ensure the availability of alcohol-based hand sanitizer upon entering and exiting the vehicle. Implement engineering controls like plexiglass barriers between drivers and passengers and enhance cleaning of high-touch areas.
Mulrooney said the province will be developing new standards for transit while working with urban transit authorities on how to move forward. Now, the city says Transit Windsor is currently operating based on recommendations from the local health unit. A spokesperson says, well, the updated advice from the province might not change things locally. They say advice from the health unit is still that you should not take transit unless you absolutely need to. After months of this lockdown, there are all sorts of things that people are longing to do. Seeing family, visiting friends in person, getting back to the gym, even getting a haircut. A visit with a barber or stylist appears to be a few weeks away without breaking those physical distancing guidelines. But as CBC Toronto's Talia Ricci tells us, there's a lot of people already breaking the rules.
I have no days off. Every day I'm booked from 10 a.m. to like 8 p.m. at nighttime.
This Toronto barber who goes by Apex the Barber says his pandemic schedule has been packed.
I do the haircut, I wear my mask, I wear my gloves, I have all my sanitizing equipment.
He's not the only black market barber. This Brampton barber boasts he's most requested in quarantine. And this is how people are seeking out quarantine cuts on Instagram.
Toronto Public Health says it's investigated 124 complaints about barbershops and hair salons and issued 17 charges over the last couple of months. In Brampton, there's been 6 charges and many more warnings. Back in March, when the province ordered hair salons and barbershops to close, the requests for house calls started pouring in.
A whole bunch of my clients started calling and asking if I could please hook them up and give them a haircut that they're willing to pay any price.
How's $500 sound? That's how much Chris Hamill from Town Barber has been offered, but he says he's denied every request.
Sure, I could use $500 right now, as much as anybody else. It's a safety issue. It's a public health issue.
Hamill says the barbers who work at his shop have been inundated with requests too, but to them, it's not worth the risk. Hey, even basketball stars have to wait.
I'm done out here, bro.
We all need barber. It's okay. Well, anyway, you have nowhere to go anyway, so what do you need barber for?
Put a hat on. Wear a hood while you're talking to someone. Like, if you're that embarrassed and self-conscious about your hair, figure out a way to make it look acceptable, or just understand that everybody's in the same boat.
Since his interview with CBC Toronto, Apex the Barber has said he's putting a hold on giving haircuts. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
So far, I have not had to take out the baseball cap for this show, but it is in the top drawer, ready to go. Now that's a look at the Ambassador Bridge there. Sunny day today. We'll see if Colette Kennedy is going to keep that forecast flowing for us when she joins us after the break. A state of emergency was declared in central Michigan overnight after 2 catastrophic dam failures.
This is serious, and it is time for people to take action to keep themselves safe.
Take a look at this. One dam ruptured. Another burst its banks after days of heavy rain. Rivers in the area at record high levels, still rising, flooding many communities along their banks. The downtown core of the city of Midland is expected to be under 3 meters of water by the day's end. All of this during the pandemic. The flooding has forced about 10,000 people to flee, but the mandatory evacuation, well, it's all complicated by the need for physical distancing at emergency shelters. Joining us now for a live look at the weather is Colette Kennedy. Just looking at that, the power of water, the power of wind, just constant reminders of what we're dealing with out
Yeah, those images, Chris, are just incredible. And yeah, you're in a pandemic and then you have to evacuate. Yeah, almost unimaginable, frankly, unimaginable what they're dealing with there. And, you know, when we take a look at what's happening with our weather headlines, well, then things seem a little more reasonable, right? In terms of tonight, clear skies for the most part anyway, so you'll be able to do some stargazing. We will have, okay, there'll be a mix of sun and cloud, but we'll have more sunshine, quite a bit of it tomorrow, so more vitamin D. And not only do you need the sunglasses, you know, you need your sunscreen too, especially now we're starting to peel some of the layers off, so more skin is exposed, so don't forget that. And then the upswing in the humidity, we're going to be seeing that. And as that air becomes more buoyant as we get towards Sunday, Monday, then that increases that chance of seeing some thunderstorm activity kind of mixing in here as well. These are your current temperatures. We've still got a while till the sun sets. It doesn't set till 8:41 this evening, so still some daylight before you're going to get into any of that stargazing. Look at those winds, still getting that wind off the lake through Chatham, Kent, also in Leamington, by the way, but we're seeing those winds at least not as strong now. Now, in terms of what's happening, precipitation is to the south of us, and that's where most of the action is. That is where most of the action is going to be staying. But as we look towards the end of the week, we start to get a chance of seeing some precipitation coming back. So we roll through into Thursday. Things look pretty good. Now into the afternoon hours, I think we're going to see more cloud cover building here and more of that mix I was talking about. Then it's into Friday. See a few of these spotty showers trying to make their way in. So we do have a chance, I put it in there, for some showers into Friday and probably keep quite a bit of that cloud cover into Saturday as well. So enjoy the clearer conditions tonight. Those lows around 9 degrees for Windsor, 8 for London. And then tomorrow afternoon, still a little below seasonal if you look at our average height for this time of year, but a very pleasant day on tap. And then as we get towards Friday, that's when we have the chance for showers. I'm sorry, it looks like this hasn't actually updated for me. I do want you to know there's a chance for showers as we go towards Friday, again on Sunday and Monday.
I'm sorry, Colette, that's on me. I went into the system, I hacked it. No. I just wanted a solid Saturday. Is it too much to ask?
What kills me is I build these things, I save them, and then where did it go?
Right. It's in the cloud somewhere, right?
Yeah,
in the
don't
cloud.
Look at this.
Whatever that is.
My apologies. I am going to post it. I'll tweet it.
Perfect. Thanks, Colette.
Town.
That's great. Now, coming up, we're going to show you a family that's found a way to come together through a sheet of plastic. That's next. The Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program has been slower to come together than other aid packages from Ottawa, but today the Prime Minister said landlords can begin applying for forgivable loans to ease rental costs for small business tenants on May 25th. The consequences of not easing rents could be dire.
If many businesses aren't able to make ends meet and do go under at this point, it'll be a lot slower to pick up the economy, and that'll be bad for Canadians, but it'll also be bad for landlords. Indeed, with many people discovering that we can work from home, there may be a lot of vacancies in commercial buildings over the coming months and years.
Now, the program calls for property owners to offer small business tenants a minimum 75% rent reduction from April to June. Ottawa and the provinces will cover 50% of the cost of the loan, with landlords absorbing at least 25% of the cost. The program was outlined in April, but did not generate strong interest at the time. So many of us missing something we maybe used to take for granted: hugs. For one Illinois mom and her kids, they missed hugging their grandma so much they got creative.
Put your arms through the slots. All right. Oh my goodness. Oh, I love you. I love you. Oh, this is so good.
Jumping up and down, my turn. That's joy right there. A plastic window sealer, livestock gloves. The family made hug time a reality. Nana says it was a wonderful surprise for her. She was so happy she got to hold her grandkids. Just an interesting way to safely spread some of the love during all of this. 6:29 p.m. That's it for CBC Windsor News. You can always find us on our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks for watching.